One. Hi everyone, welcome to the show. I'm Michael Sandler, best-selling author and your host on Inspire Nation. Check out our website where we'll be posting podcasts, tips, videos, blogs, and more at inspirenationshow.com. Today we have a really fun guest with us. Her name is Katie Silcox. She's the New York Times best-selling author of the book Healthy, Happy, Sexy, Ayurveda Wisdom for Modern Women. She's also a nationally recognized yoga teacher, Ayurvedic practitioner, writer for Yoga Journal, and a senior teacher with the, oh boy, this is going to be a fun one, Sri-Vidya ParaYoga lineage under Yogarupa Rod Stryker. And I did practice that a few times. Nice. Katie was named one of San Francisco's best yoga teachers by Common Ground magazine in 2009 and one of the 70 Yogis Changing the World in Origin magazine in 2014. Her signature teaching style blends classic yoga, vinyasa-based asana, and life-changing tantric Ayurvedic philosophy. Before Katie began down this path, she was well down the rabbit hole in the corporate world until one fateful day when she was offered a promotion. I'll let her tell you about that one. Then that led to world travels, mystical adventures, and brought her to where she is today. We'll get into that and more as we learn how healthy, happy, and sexy can help us live better, feel better, and enjoy every aspect of life a lot more. Welcome to the show, Katie. Are you ready to shine?
Absolutely. Yes. Yay.
Well, thank you so much for being here. You know, I've really enjoyed your book. I found it to be, both an Ayurvedic manual for women, but also an Ayurvedic manual for men as well, which surprised me, particularly for men wanting better health, but also men who have a special someone in their lives and want us to understand, help to bring out the best in her as well.
How wonderful. The first person that ever bought the book was a man. And I thought that was really telling, that this book, we did market it towards women with the publisher, but it's really a love offering. And I love that you put words to my heart's desire, and that is that this book would also be for men that wanted to support women, because that's really a beautiful practice on the planet right now.
Both my wife and I read the books, and she's the producer. I'm here typically in front of the camera or on the mic. And so I get the book first, and I'm reading it, and I'm going, Jesse, you've got to read this. You've got to read this. And I'm like, it's got oil pulling. It's got diet in it. It's got the facial scrub stuff. It's all the stuff you want to do. It's even the shampoo we were trying to make.
Wonderful.
So I could hugely see the benefit in our own lives from it. So let's dive right in here, and we'll keep things moving pretty quickly. Sounds like about 10 years ago, maybe a little bit more than that now, you were offered a fantastic promotion. And what happened?
Yeah, I was working for a really cool company in the south of Spain called Ravenpack. They were a kind of like a predictive technology firm, and I was working in the context of research. And yeah, I was offered a promotion, and it just really caused me to pause and think about what I wanted the direction of my life to be. And I decided to move to India and study my passion full time, and that was yoga. And it wasn't just a move to study my passion. It was also coming from a place of really wanting to understand my mind and my body and what was going on in my body that felt off.
How did you, it's not typical that somebody goes, ooh, I'm offered a good job. I think I'm going to run to India.
Yeah.
What was going on in your mind? Because, this is a show where we're helping people live a greater life or live a more purpose-driven life. Mm-hmm. What flipped that switch in you?
Suffering. I'm one of God's favorites, and I think God's favorites get to have their butt kicked a little bit in this lifetime. And I never thought about it that way, but since there's been a lot of 2x4 action in my life. Yeah, it was that. It was getting real about the state of my being, and just really having kind of almost a rebellious spirit and saying, I don't want to get caught up in this technology world. although I love technology, I mean, it's how you and I are meeting right now. But I had started studying yoga, as many of us did in that time period, really intensively. And I was under the somewhat naive notion that I could just go to India and find this amazing guru, and that he would tell me what was wrong with me, and then my whole life would make sense, which obviously didn't happen. But yeah, that was kind of the path.
So you get to India, and well, I read that you were in India and you saw Sufis and you saw all sorts of mystical stuff. And then was it when you came back that you stumbled on Ayurveda? What was your path there?
Sure, yeah, it was such a beautiful story. There's an author named Piers Morgenstern who wrote a book called Honey and Dust, and it was about how he recovered from depression through going around the world studying traditional bee harvesting. And I had this serendipitous meeting with him where I was about to maybe stay in the job, aforementioned job, and he said, you know, I'm going to India to research miracles and holy men. Would you like to come?
Oh, who's going to say no to that?
Exactly. And he was wonderful, still a dear friend, and I went with him, and so I had kind of an in with a lot of different spiritual, I wouldn't say freak shows, but kind of. It wasn't what I was looking for. It was too much. It was too intense. And so I had the great fortune of studying with the Mohans, who are in Chennai, who were Krishnamacharya's students. And that's really where I started studying Ayurveda, because they were great avid students and practitioners of Ayurveda. And I remember being like, this is crazy. I do not understand this at all.
Meaning Ayurveda.
If you would have told me you're going to write a book about Ayurveda, I would have cracked I mean, the furthest from my mind.
So,
but yeah, it stuck.
I'm guessing, and I could be wrong, you hadn't had any formal experience or understanding of what Ayurveda was.
Not at all. I mean, I was raised in a trailer park in Tennessee. I mean, I had a beautiful education, but Ayurveda certainly wasn't a part of it. And so it's coming from this very Western individualization kind of background, a Southern Baptist background. And when he told me that your body is composed of 5 elements, that really, I felt my Western logical rational mind really challenged. And that really is, I think, the place where we all start our healing, is where we begin to pay less credence to the rational mind as the only entry point.
So I can remember when I was told by a Tai Chi master, and he told me, he goes, "You're hardwood, your wife is softwood. You must water her well." And coming from a Western perspective, okay, this is craziness.
Yeah.
But it turns out there's something to all of this.
Totally.
So what is, if you can sum it up, what is Ayurveda, and why is it so important to us?
I can't underestimate, or overestimate rather, the importance of it. I mean, for the time that we have right now on our planet, I feel like Ayurveda is one of our saving graces. And so Ayurveda is an understanding basically of how nature behaves. It's humbling ourselves as humans to study what our elders have studied and what our tribal elders have known in terms of how nature works and how we can get aligned with those natural rhythms inside of our own body, so as to have the mind and the body make good decisions for the planet. So, Ayurveda is definitely this science from India that's 5,000 years old, but it's also much bigger than that. And really the context of my book is, this is about folk wisdom. India has one of the best, most sophisticated preserved systems, but any system from anywhere that's attempting to humbly come before these elements of nature, I would say, is Ayurveda. It's the science of life.
So a science of life based on connecting with ancient wisdom, connecting with the earth, which is a biggie for me, and it doesn't throw out the modern, but it looks at more what's worked for thousands of years.
Exactly. Yeah. And how can I see the world in simple terms so as to address complicated problems?
Give me an example.
Sure. You wake up one morning and you have dry, bloodshot eyes. Ayurveda would say that this is a condition of fire.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense. It's hot, it's red. And so what I'm going to do in regard to the foods that I put in my body or the medicine herbs that I put on my skin or in my body, they all need to be the opposite of that heated, oily quality if you're dealing with that type of condition. And so it's really simple. And yet when people learn it, they're kind of like, oh, this is so intuitive. It makes so much logical sense. And yet we've lost this basic wisdom and therefore have so many of the problems we have with digestion and mind and sleep and even sexuality come from just a lack of the very basic understandings of nature.
You talk about it bringing Ayurveda, bringing things back into balance, and about like bringing about like. And I think of myself who was a raw vegan for many years, mm-hmm. And my body temperature, was running low.
Right, we gotta heat you up.
Until I learned, and I'm like, I don't want to cook my food. I don't want to harm any of the nutrients in it. And I had I wish I had seen your book at the time, because I had some friends who are Ayurvedic farmers, and they're basically smacking me upside the head, going, you don't get it. You're cold, you gotta stop eating cold.
Right. Yeah. And a lot of times we have to do, and really, the more I work with my own being, mm-hmm. the more I see it's really not about balance. Nothing is balanced.
Nothing can stay in balance, certainly.
Right. So how can I lovingly, compassionately, especially during the time we live in, work with the challenges of chaos mm-hmm. in such a way that will keep me stable? That really is the word.
The tightrope.
Yeah, exactly. You're never not dealing with something, at least in our time, unless you live on an Ayurvedic farm. Yeah. And can meditate all day. I mean, it's not my reality. And
even there, on a farm, meditating all day, well, guess what? There's going to be storms, there's going to be droughts, there's going to be different conditions which cause the plants to have all sorts of challenges. It's life.
Right, and then you start to come up against your own personal boredom. I mean, it's always something. Yeah. I think that my teacher really describes this whole path so beautifully. He said it's not about achieving some enlightened state or some perfect health. It's about not struggling anymore.
Well, I think your book would say it's about enjoying the ride. It's an owner's manual that tells you how you can either go through your life, like you're saying, suffering and struggling, or maybe we can, take it from being a black and white TV with an old glowing picture tube and bring it into more of an HD world so you can enjoy the show more.
Absolutely, yes.
So I was reading the importance of food, sleep, and sex, which you call 3 key elements. Yeah. Can you share with our audience about that?
Sure. This isn't my great big idea. These are the 3 pillars of health according to ancient wisdom, and mm-hmm. it makes so much sense for us today as modern human beings, and I feel this in my being. If I have these non-negotiables in my life, and every day I'm going to cook for myself. It seems like this radical act, whereas our grandma, like my grandmother, did that and knew that, and certainly our great-grandmothers knew that, because the Ayurveda wisdom understands that if you aren't taking care of food as a primary spiritual practice, there's no yoga practice. Food is the first spiritual discipline. If you don't have a relationship to that discipline, all other disciplines it's not that they're not going to work, it's that it's even dangerous.
What does a relationship with food mean?
Meaning that I understand that I have a certain semblance of calm and stability in my mind, enough so that I'm able to actually tune into what my body needs at the given moment in time. Yeah. Hopefully this isn't coming from my senses or my patterning, but it's coming from the wisdom seed inside of me.
What's an example of this?
Oh, I'll give you a great example. You have a rough day, and you come home and want to eat a bag of potato chips.
Of course.
Right? or something like that. That's what I would tend towards. Some people like sweets.
I'm going for chocolate.
Yeah, a lot of people go for chocolate. So in that moment, you're at this pregnant moment in time where you have the capacity to stop and ask, you know, what do I really need right now? And rarely will your soul say, you need to binge eat potato chips in bed with like 4 hours of Netflix. Like, rarely will your soul say that. Usually what happens if I'm upset and I'm about to make that decision regarding food, if I stop, what will happen is sometimes I'll just have to cry because I'm an emotional creature, but sometimes it'll just be this flood of love. And then it'll say, you need to eat a sweet potato.
Wow.
Because you're craving grounding, you're craving a potato, you're having a healthy craving. It's expressing through an old pattern of your pain body, i.e. the 12-year-old.
Yeah. And that's not too different. I mean, potato chip, potato. It's not so different. You're just 1 degree off.
Exactly. And if you're craving chocolate, you know, there's nothing wrong. We love chocolate as a medicine, right? There's some medicinal quality to chocolate. That's why women crave it around their menstrual cycle. Well, it's super high in magnesium and zinc, and it has a quality of bitterness. Bitter is a taste we do not get in our diet hardly at all. Not you and me, but like our standard American diet.
Yes. And you have some fantastic recipes, by the way, at the end of the book. They're really fun.
Yeah, yeah. So it's
just a shameless plug there.
Yeah, plug away. So, I mean, that would be an example of the way that I like to imagine it as consciousness, your soul's loving, all-wise heart being pushed through these ancient patterns of the past. That original pulse always knows what it needs. Potato, right? Potatoes actually close down our channels and they fill us. Well, if you're feeling expanded, ungrounded, and light, we want to feel heavy and full. So there's a wisdom in the longing, but it's being projected out through something not healthy.
So it sounds to me, if I'm someone who hasn't gone far down this rabbit hole, fairly complex and hard to figure out. How do you start down that path and start to understand what you are? Am I expanded? Am I contracted? How am I going to know what to eat? Where do I go with this?
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, I get you. So many of the people that live in our Western world right now aren't even eating cooked food or food that they've prepared or that someone that loves them prepared.
Or food that's food.
That's food. So it is complex, and you can get highly refined with Ayurveda, but it's also very simple. Just cook for yourself. Food that your great-grandmother, as Michael Pollan said, would have knew what it was. She would have recognized it. It's just that simple.
I love you have a section on the book that does a really good job of explaining the doshas. Because I think this is a very important concept for people, and I can see the day, maybe it's already taking place in San Francisco or someplace, where somebody comes up to you and instead of asking you your sign, they go,
what's your dosha?
What's your dosha?
There's a book called, this is just not a plug for me, but this is a plug for someone I don't even know, called What's My Dosha Baby? What's Your Dosha Baby? And
there
it's
you
all
go.
About the doshas of dating. Yeah, the doshas are a really interesting concept. I think that what happens, though, like with any of these systems, be it astrology, numerology, Enneagram, Ayurveda, we get so interested in, as Americans, as the me categorization tools, and we forget the point. The point is, Ayurveda has succinctly outlined 3 ways that we can enter into balance, or 3 ways. They're basically 2 sides of the same coin, right? If I am flowing the way I need to flow, I call it health. But when it goes out of balance, I call it vata, which is the first dosha. And really, no one would in India would say, "Hi, I'm a vata. Nice to meet you." You know, it would be like saying, "Hi, I'm inflammation," or "I'm menstruation." I mean, no one identifies with these doshas, but
in the West we do.
Yeah. But essentially, they are modes of utilizing the 5 elements to understand how I, Katie, will tend to go to balance. And it is dead on.
So what does it mean? Let's say, so for myself, going through it, I'm a vata nature. I'm a windy nature.
Yeah.
What does that mean as far as how I act, how I live, or how I eat?
Right. So there are these three doshas, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. Vata, as you said, we would refer to as a windy nature, as a cool, dry, degenerative in the negative sense force, but also the force of spirituality and connection and creativity. Oh yeah, like nobody wants to be a Vata, but Vatas are we're priests and artists. I mean, this is a very important category of beings. And then fire types tend to be more medium build, and they tend towards imbalances that are related to fire. And then the third is Kapha, which is earth and water-based people who tend to have more heavy bone structures and tend towards imbalances that are more watery in nature, such as excess mucus, or even we would consider fat, excess fat, to be a Kapha imbalance. But it really does get complicated because you were born with a specific ratio of all three of these. Yeah. Right? It's not that you don't have all of them. You have all of them. But typically, people will have more of one of them. Right? So in your case, you said you had a little more Vata. Well, in the old days, you would tend towards those imbalances. But now, we all are suffering from Vata imbalances, almost everyone, regardless of what we came in with.
No, it's the world we're living in today, yes.
It's deranging, and so what Vata basically is deranged through the internet, through information overload, through lack of sleep, through a lack of connection to earth, and all these things that we are currently experiencing as modern humans.
So let's jump ahead a little bit, because you can go into your book, you can dive into it, you can learn about, I know for myself, I've had to do significant dietary changes. I had to look what I eat, and for me, I can actually tell when my Vata is getting out of balance. The term I use is spinny. Yeah. And so I find if I'm going wazoo, going up, it means I've got to get more grounded, like you're saying, the sweet potato, get grounded. So let's jump into the other end of things. I'm figuring out how I'm going to segue. Jessica found this an interesting part of the book. I went through it going, yeah, I really don't want to talk with people about this. But it is a very important, well, we have these kitty cats, and Jessica always, as a good mama to the kitty cats, is always checking their poop out to see if they're eating well, if their stomachs are okay, if things are going well. Yeah. But we never think to check our own poop out. Yeah. Your book goes right down that.
Yeah, we go there. We're not shy. So one of the main ways we look at people's health is through their excrements, and not necessarily inspecting it, but just asking people to be aware of their own relationship to elimination. I meet with people one-on-one, and I'll ask them, hey, so how's your bowel movements? And so many people say, oh, they're fine, they're normal. And I'll say, what's normal? And they'll say, oh, once every 2 or 3 days. And I'm like, that's not normal. So I think even just the first step of bringing awareness to these things is huge. To make it important, that this matters.
I've got to ask then, what? We're going this way. Oh my. What is your poop supposed to be like?
Well, I mean, there's not really one way that anything's supposed to be like in Ayurveda. So I said I want to make T-shirts that say, because I teach a lot, and people ask me endless questions, and I said I just need a T-shirt that says it depends, right? So I mean, typically in the book I say a joke, it needs to look like a soft brown banana smiling up at you. That's nice, right? That it's has an even consistency, but again, given the time we're living, that's becoming more and more rare, although that is the best and that is normal. For example, versus someone with a fire constitution may have different experiences. People with a fiery constitution tend to go to the bathroom 1 to 2 times a day, and that's normal for them. Vata people, we want them going once a day because we want to keep them happy, but they have a tendency to not. Right? So there's really no normal. It's just how are you feeling, and do you have any negative symptoms?
And then when we're talking about things like exercise, when we're talking about things like sex, one of those three pillars, if you're not going regularly, that can certainly affect your how everything works, how everything feels to you.
Hugely. And when I work with people in terms of sexual libido, sex is not just intercourse. Sex is your feeling of relationship to the world. Your relationships really is a better word. How am I utilizing my energy on the planet? And it's precious. And I ask people, especially when they come to me saying they don't have a sex drive, I say, how's your digestion? Are you going to the bathroom? So many times people tell me, oh my God, I'm totally constipated. And I'm like, it's all the same energy. It's downward flow of energy. It's down and out. So if you aren't going to the bathroom regularly, how are you going to be able to relax into that sexual experience of an orgasm or even just being in the mood? These are the same energies. So if you clear up your digestion, your sex life immediately gets better. And it's more complicated, obviously, in interpersonal relationships. But that's one thing to hugely consider on the physical realm.
Yeah, and I would say if you improve your digestion, your energy levels go way, way up because you're actually getting proper nutrition. You're getting the nutrients into you. So let's dive down this rabbit hole, which is, you talk about Tantra, you talk about conscious sex. First off, what is Tantra?
Yeah, you know, this was a challenging section for me to write because I've been studying Tantra for a decade now with the teacher, and it's sad because it's been presented to the West as some sort of sexual practice when Tantra is really the most sublime, complex technology for enlightenment that exists, and it covers every single aspect of life: how to arrange a room, how to have beautiful sex, how to create ritual, how to use herbs, how to work with energy, mantra, I mean, on and on and on. Tantra is just the most vast science around the evolution, really, of consciousness that exists. So sex is a very small part of that, but it is a part of it. And what I see now on the planet is this calling, really, to utilize our relationships as entry points into our higher self, into love, into melting the ego, really. What could be better? Making that union between two, in a sense, more of a union, it's going to sound real woo-woo, but a union with the divine. Absolutely. It's like this idea that instead of two people looking at one another, their eyes are focused on whatever it is that they connect to that enables them to feel that they are tuned to higher love, higher power, God, whatever you call it. But that really is a central premise of not Tantra, all mystical traditions, and especially the evolution currently of consciousness is calling us to embody our enlightenment rather than run away and join, you know, a cave dwelling society. And so are you seeing the evolution as consciousness as we're in a positive path or going in the right direction right now? You know, I have to hold that. You know, I think I have to hold that. And I do kind of go into the depths of gruesome despair, thinking that it is absolutely, you know, when you watch the news or when you see the way the world is going right now, I think we are at this really delicious, complex point where we're being called to make a choice. I am amazed. Right now I'm teaching in the hills of Tennessee where I was born. I started the first teacher training there ever. I mean, this is like unheard of that people there are doing yoga and are interested in. I love it. It's unheard of. Unheard of. I mean, when I was growing up, you would have been considered a devil worshiper. You know, so consciousness is shifting. Of this, I have no doubt. But are we going to have enough of us making the shift all at once to survive? I think that's what's still interesting to see. I think a big piece of that, and it's something you go into your book, is about in order to shift that consciousness, to get more of a critical mass. Well, your critical mass, but the critical mass starts with the experiment of one. Right. And the experiment of one really starts with, I think, loving yourself first. Yeah, I 100% agree. And so you have beautiful practices in the book, whether it's eating rituals. Actually, what are the glowing goddess routines? Because those are ways that you can love yourself. Yeah. men and women. You know, I'm right now running a course called The Summer of Love, and it's all about this practice. It's all about the radical, revolutionary art and science and practice of love. And when I do these glowing goddess routines, such as cook for myself or have some sort of spiritual practice that I attend to, that I take care of like I would a baby or a kitty or a plant, when I tend to my skin, when I tend to my love relationships, when I tend to those things of my daily routine, what I'm actually doing is honoring the vehicle that is the mind-body that will enable me to get the message. I cannot get the message if I'm sick or I'm doshically out of whack. I can't get the message if I'm riddled with anxiety or depression, which is unfortunately the new norm in our world today. It's the new normal.
How much is meditation a part of that, would you say?
For me, or just in general?
We'll go both. For you
I'm
first.
a weirdo.
Okay, let's go there.
You know, I don't have any children. Currently, I'm single. I'm very much living this life of the yogini
You've got your cave.
I'm in the woods, yeah.
I love it.
So I can do it fairly into practice, but really the meditation as it develops, it's just all day. It's just all day. It's all day being called to surrender thoughts as offerings onto the fire of yoga, which is love. You know, it's just all day. But that's after many, many years of being burned in the fire, right, of practice. And so generally I try to do at least 30 minutes in the morning and another 30 minutes in night. And that sometimes happens at night and sometimes not. But meditation is happening every day for me. It's one of the non-negotiables. For me, it's like the drive to understand myself is stronger than any other desire. There's no other desire greater than the desire to love my own being, and therefore easy to love others, you know, from that wellspring that's overflowing. I really am a fiery gal, and I tell my students, do not tell me you do not have time to meditate, because if you have time for Facebook, you have time for meditation. You know, and then they go, whoa, yeah.
So then for somebody who, one of your students who says, I don't have time to meditate, what is a simple way to, or simple practice you would give them?
I'm not simple though. See, if someone says to me, I don't have time to meditate, you know, okay, a simple way, I have many meditations in the book, and you know, we'll record one, and you can just get started with breathing into your belly for 5 minutes whenever you have time. But what I would even do, because you have to understand, I'm a tantric teacher, so I, by nature, am here to burn you. And so what I would say to them is, you need to reevaluate your life.
To burn away that which doesn't serve you.
Yeah. So I would say to them, if you don't have time to meditate and yet your heart is longing to know who she is, reevaluate. Now, if you have a 2-year-old baby, it's just all bets are off. You know what I tell mother? You're a mother, that's the practice. But, you know, other than that, really, I think as a collective society, we have got to get it together. We have got to start to prioritize these spiritual practices and these practices of doing nothing as strong priorities.
The practice of doing nothing.
Let's see what happens. Serendipity. You know, I lived for 8 years in Spain, and what the Spaniards taught me was the beautiful art of one thing leading to the next. Nobody had a calendar. I'll put you in for Thursday. I hate this. You know, people say, well, let's schedule something to hang out for Tuesday. And I say, I don't know. I don't know. Let's let life unfold for a second and show us what we're going to feel like doing the next hour. That's a luxury that we don't have as Americans anymore.
And as weird as it sounds, and it's going to sound weird to everybody, particularly because, you know, this show is our livelihood, it's a luxury that's changed with electricity. Because electricity enforces an artificial construct, an artificial world, and in the evening, an artificial light, which takes us completely out of whack from being in sync with the natural flow of things.
Well, this is a big part of the book on sleep. one of the pillars that we didn't mention is sleep. And what I say in the book, it's insane. We have all of these things called lights that keep us and our hormones thinking that it's daylight when it's actually dark. Then when we go to bed and there's finally dark, we have all these lights and things buzzing that are making us think that it's, it's just, it really is so simple. And if you go and you're out in the country without internet for a couple days, you see how simple it is to live and to work. And I think we've just overcomplicated it. I think you can still make a good living and tune into natural rhythms. I believe in that, and I really do try to embody it in my own life, sometimes to greater and lesser extents.
Beautiful. So what would be three takeaway pieces of advice you would give people, either based on the book or on your experience as a tantric teacher? 3
pieces of advice? That's really general.
What 3 pieces can you give people they can start on today? How's that?
Here we go. Number 1.
Yes.
Figure out what it is that your heart is longing to do before you die and this precious golden opportunity of life is over. And dedicate yourself to that with great fervor, and the money will come. Beautiful. So many people that I know are living lives of quiet desperation, doing jobs that they don't love. Consciousness won't change if we're miserable in our jobs. So actually Deepak Chopra speaks about this, that we can create a consumer culture around spiritual gifts. So I'm a big believer in conscious capitalism, spiritual business. That's the next wave. Secondly, I would say just cook food. Just chop freaking vegetables. It's just that simple. And
that was so hard for me years ago to actually make my first salad.
Just chop food up. Eat. People are like, what should I eat? What should I eat? And I'm in the freaking wave of the crazy too. Like, I have the Vitamix with the 50,000 powders. I get it.
Yeah.
But you know what? When I'm really on my A game, what is really occurring for me is just so simple. On my plate, there's just 80% vegetables, and they're beautiful. It's just that easy. Then you can put lentils, put rice, put meat, whatever you do, but just 80% vegetables. Your body will start to change. Just 80% vegetables. It's that simple. So that would be the second piece of advice. And then the third would be, this is perhaps the most important, I think, for myself right now and for the people that I get the opportunity to just be with and just who I see. Sensitive beings are going to be the ones watching this show and reading the book usually. We're kind of, the current world order was not created for sensitive people. It wasn't. It's changing. But what I want to have people remember is that anxiety and these deep, dark feelings that are coming through many beings right now are a call for healing from the soul, and that they should be seen as bringers of light. That when I meet my feelings with total kindness, like crazy, annoying dolphins and rainbows kindness, when I do that to my own fear or like tension, where are you coming from? Why am I tense? Nothing's wrong.
I'll be going to my chest. I love myself. I love myself, and massaging right over my heart and saying, I love myself. I love myself.
Dude, it has to be that cheesy and like people cringe, but this works. So I would say to really honor all these aspects of ourselves that are coming through at this time, in this weird, beautiful, powerful time we're living in.
I love it. Woo!
Wonderful.
All right, so question that we ask all of our guests before we wrap up, which is, what brings you the greatest happiness, or what I call the woohoo factor?
Other than watching you do that? What brings me the greatest happiness is when I can finally get quiet. I mean, not to sound too zen coming from a tantrika, but when I can just get quiet, I can really feel and see this just unbelievable amount of love, like just looking at you and like the room and the beauty. It's all coming from the mind getting quiet. That's really where happiness comes from.
I love it. One of my favorite, it's a strange thing to say, but particularly having lived in Hawaii for many years, you'd have long plane rides.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite activities, people are going, oh, there's a really long plane ride. What am I going to do? And I'd be like blissed out because I'm stuck there for 5 hours, for 12 hours, for however many hours, and I've got nothing to do.
Yeah.
Nothing to do.
And that's a very man thing to say. You know, I think the men in general have this innate connection to Shiva, which is this presence, this silence. And so I do a whole talk and course around just this one idea of how we can bring silence into our lives as women, because we are more connected. And not to say men aren't coming into their connection to the feminine, absolutely, but women are more connected to that energy pulse that is always doing, right? But that groundless beingness is medicine for our time. You know, so it makes sense to me that you would you would find that on the plane.
So, a last question from Jessica, and then we'll wrap things up, which is any words of wisdom for mothers out there, particularly with little kids or with newborns?
Yeah, absolutely. My two best friends in San Francisco both just had a baby 2 weeks apart. And what I would say is there's this beautiful tradition of just, especially with newborns, of just staying in bed with them for as long as possible, weeks and weeks of just staying in bed and having people serve you, bring you food, and really calling on community.
It sounds like the village, the old village.
The village, yeah, they don't have to live with you. You can kick them out. But really calling on the support of friends and family to be there, because one of the tragedies of modern times is that women feel so alone. This is not normal. Women should not be hanging out with kids all day by themselves. It leads to craziness because you're like, I live in a 2-year-old reality. That's not healthy for women. They need to be around other women. They need to be in a supportive environment. We really need to support mothers right now on the planet. And so just say, one of the things that I encourage my women students and friends to do is to just let go of any expectation of doing any type of spiritual practice other than the one that's unfolding intuitively. I think also mothers, especially if they're educating themselves and on some sort of spiritual path, feel this tremendous pressure to be perfect and to know everything and to do everything. And you know, a student of mine was telling me she's really trying to follow all the Ayurvedic principles in my book while she just had a baby. She was feeling stressed out.
Throw the book out for now.
Throw the book out. You are the book. You are the book. Just do your thing intuitively and to take the pressure off. But I mean, I have tons of advice for new moms, but the other piece is, as the children remember, this is the Tantrika fire teacher at your service. These children are not yours. They are gifts that are moving through you. It is your job to help serve their dharma, not your attachment.
They're our teachers.
They are our teachers. I see mothers getting very identified with their children. This is going to cause pain. I'm not saying it's not easy. I'm just saying that keep your own passion alive that is divorced from the child, and ironically the child will see that, embody that, respect that, and want to be around you more.
I love that. That's coaching advice that I've given to parents as well, is it's almost like the Gandhi, be the change you want to see in the world, but take care of yourself and your needs and be the best you can. That little being will see that and want to be doing just like you're doing. Different things, but you become the great model that way. Yeah,
exactly.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, and thank you for being on the show. I recommend everybody go out and get a copy of Healthy, Happy, Sexy. Where do you want to send people?
To get the book, they can get a signed copy from my website, katiesilcox.com. The book's also on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all the online retailers have it.
And we'll have a link to it with more information as well on inspirenationshow.com.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
Oh, it's It's heart opening.
Yeah, well, we're just like brother and sister, just reuniting. I mean, there's so many of us on the planet doing this work. It's been wonderful for me to be with you because I'm in the middle of the woods in Virginia, and it's like, oh yeah, like my tribe is out there doing this good work. So thank you for what you do.
We all get to be the light.
Yeah.
So for everyone out there, this is Michael Sandler saying, be well, have fun, get healthy, happy, and sexy, and shine bright.
Shine bright.
Woohoo! Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like below. Also leave your comments, have some real fun with it. Subscribe to our channel where you're going to get more great videos, more interviews coming up. And check out our website, inspirenationshow.com. That's where you'll find tips, blogs, information, videos you won't find anywhere else, and useful and helpful resources to really help you kickstart your life and to shine bright. Thanks so much again. Thank you for your support. Like, comment, subscribe. See the website. Thanks so much and have fun. Of course, shine bright.